You are about to take a journey into the weird, the unexplained, the things you catch out of the corner of your eye, the things that live deep within the recesses of your mind, the things that wait for you in the dark. Welcome to Paranormal Into the Night. And now here is your host, Dino Ewelt.
Hello and welcome to Paranormal Into the Night. That's right, we are back. The big relaunch. Go like us on Facebook. Go like us on YouTube, and especially on iTunes. Go check us out. Subscribe. Just type us into the old computer board there, and search Paranormal Into the Night and subscribe. A little nervous here. Just starting to. I've been off 8 months from the show. There's been a lot going on in my life, so I am happy to be back doing this show, Paranormal Into the Night. It's been going strong for the past 8 months that I've been gone. So in my head, I've been going, hey, this is really, really cool. This is awesome. So I plan on hitting this hard, putting this out there, and taking it as far as I can go. And I've got a lot of really good guests coming up and scheduled for the next month. And if you're interested in being a guest, just get a hold of me on Facebook. Usually that's the best place. All the emails and everything else is there. We will stream every Saturday and Sunday coming up here, 11 p.m. Eastern time. And always check on iTunes, because that's the place where everybody gets things downloaded and listening. And who doesn't like to listen to a podcast late at night in bed with their headphones on through Google Podcasts, iTunes on your iPad, whatever. It's a cool thing. So, and a big thanks to Stephen G. Atkins, who did the introduction for me there. Really good voice guy. Really, really good. So, really dug that. I appreciate him doing that for me. And again, getting in the groove here, got new software, got new everything up going here. So bear with me. I'll start to get a little bit more smoother as we go along in the show. But, jumping right back into something after 8 months, you know how it goes. But I know you guys are out there and you guys can't wait. I put a post out there not long ago, and everybody shared it and was like, heck yeah, bring it back. So here we are, Paranormal Into the Night. Give it a subscribe, give it a look, like the page, all that good stuff. And with that said, I got an awesome guest on here who knows a heck of a lot about a lot of good stuff. And he's got his own show too. I'll let him tell you the name and all that good stuff. I usually like the guests to tell what they're doing and all that, because they can say it a lot better than I can. But who I got on here tonight is Aage Nost. How you doing, Augie?
Hello. Thank you for having me on. This is going to be fun. And welcome back to the radio world. An 8-month vacation. Man, I wish I could have that.
Yeah, I wish I could have flown off to like Mars or something like that, and but yeah, it's been a 8-month, long time since I've been away, and I'm happy to be back doing a show, and I'm glad you're the first guest. And
yeah, I tell you, now when you're back, you're going to have so much fun. It probably should be illegal,
I'm telling you, right? Who doesn't like talking about this stuff? I mean, we've grown up our whole lives, watching the movies, reading the books, listening to our favorite hosts and shows, about, science fiction, aliens, even the government. This is all intertwined, quantum physics, stuff like. I mean, it's all kinds of, blends together. So
Yeah, I think we have one thing in common, and that is that our thinking is so far outside of the box. I don't even know where the box is anymore.
amen to that, Augie. I tell you, it's sometimes yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm sitting here right now, and I'm going to be talking to you about a lot of things that you're going to give me some really interesting facts about, okay, and some may go over my head because and some I may go, wow, but we'll get to it once we start getting into
Yeah,
this and talking. I'm not oh, how can I put this? I'm not like a bad skeptic, okay, but I have not really had anything happen to me, really. I've had a few little things, enough to just get me going, wow, there's something out there, something's going on. But that's why I love talking to people, because I want to learn. I want to find out what's going on out there, and what better way than talking to people like you. So
yeah.
so yeah.
Well, the thing about it is that skeptics, we need them because there's so much fake stuff out there, and there's so many out there lying their face off telling stories that we need them to point it out to us, because especially for myself, because I have seen so much. And I am probably easier to fool than many others. So if the skeptics are not there, when I post a picture and I get about 80 people saying fake, then I start looking at it. What are they seeing that I'm not seeing? So we need those people. We need them there to tell us that something's wrong with this.
Oh yeah, no, you are 100% right. We need the skeptics, and that brings on the debate, too, which
Yeah.
which sometimes, and this is where I'm kind of caught in the crossfire here with what's true and what's not. Like one person can say, I seen an alien, but do I believe you? Even though you 100% may have seen it, may have been abducted, been taken to another planet, whatever. I'm sitting here going, how the heck can I possibly believe that? And I guess the best way is to get as much information and as many facts out of that person as you can, and then make your determination from there, So,
Yep.
yeah. But anyways, let's talk about you a little bit first here, because I know you are all over YouTube. You've been doing this for a long time. You've done so many shows and so many networks. What is Aage Nost doing right now that you want to promote? Like, I know you got a show out there right now, couple books, right?
Yeah, and I'm on the speaking circuit, so to speak, on the radio, and I'm being interviewed a lot from different radio stations and internet podcast and regular radio stations, talking about these two books, and I have a lot of fun with that. And I also have me and a co-host over in Germany, Diana over there. We have a radio show where it's called the Universal Consciousness Show. And we talk about pretty much the same thing as Art Bell used to do. We talk about everything outside the box, but we try to keep it in a positive genre where we I try to stay away from politics. I try to stay away from really negative issues, including religion, because I got a saying, it amazes the mind to think how far mankind would have reached was it not for government and religion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say amen to that. The one thing I do not talk about is, for the most part, is politics and religion.
yeah.
I just will not do it, because people are diehard, and they don't want to hear nothing other than their view. So yeah, I stay away from that totally. So I get it. Just to let everybody know, go look at the description, whether it's iTunes you're listening to, or you're looking on Facebook and listening, or YouTube. Look in the description box. All the links will be there. I'll have Augie's show and his two books. Everything will be there. So just check that out. But yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to those two subjects, we got to remember that this concept that, my mind, don't confuse me with the facts because my mind is made up.
Right.
So that's with us. Now, I've been in Tucson since 1999 when I came down here from Omaha. And just a few months after I got here, I ended up with a radio show, kind of like a healing show.
Hmm.
And 6 months later, I ended up with hosting and producing two TV shows. And I had a lot of fun with that. Did it for 6 years. And from there on, I got conned into getting on the ballot running for Congress. And I've done a lot of things ever since.
No way. A Congress, huh?
Yeah, that was
Wow.
stupid move on my part because I had a radio station at the time, and whenever the my opponent and the local city government did something illegal or corrupt, I jumped in the middle of it and pointed to, how wrong they were and what they did and what was all illegal, and I made some very heavy enemies on it. So
Well, you learned
I,
really quick though, right? And you took
oh
off
yeah,
from there. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you learn very fast.
Oh, wow.
But I'm having a lot of good times with this, and I'm learning a lot too. I had some tremendous experience. I've flown for 23 years. Me and a partner had a flight school and an international air taxi and an air carrier in Minneapolis. And I've logged over 10,000 hours of flight time. And when you log that much flight time, you see stuff in the sky that shouldn't really be there.
Right. Yes.
And
And most of the time they hush them up, right? I mean, it's
oh
something
yeah.
you're not supposed to really talk about, but
Airlines, they are that way. I don't know that now it's starting to loosen up a little bit, but before, I mean, if a captain, I don't care if it was co-pilot or captain, if they said to the management that, we saw a UFO, poof, they're out the door.
which is a
They,
shame. I mean,
yeah,
because if these things really are out there and somebody spots it, I mean, to get fired over that is just kind of sad, but
yeah.
yeah. So you were a pilot too. Wow, you've done quite a bit in your lifetime, right?
Well, I grew up in Norway and on a farm, and growing up on a farm, that tradition is very strong over there. So that means that I was supposed to be a farmer.
Hmm.
Well, I went through college, became an agronomist, and figured it out after a while that this is not what I want to do. So I ended up leaving Norway, coming to the United States to go to flight school and become a pilot. And I did that, and from there on, it's just been a ride,
Oh boy.
quite a ride.
Yes, and a good one, right?
But
Interesting
yeah,
one.
yeah, but I tell you though, some of this stuff that I have gone through,
Hmm.
it was for the good, even though it didn't feel good at the time, because I learned a lot from it. And those learning experience made me stronger and more knowledgeable, and now I can speak more intelligently on many things that other people just wonder about.
Well, right, and with time comes experience and
Yeah.
knowledge. So who better to speak to about these things is somebody who's got the knowledge and has been there for a while. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what technically got you into the paranormal field?
Well, I think that started when I was a little kid because, in fact, I think I sent you a picture of the very first picture I sent you. That was of a UFO detector that I
Okay,
built
here,
when I was,
let me show the picture right here. There we
yeah.
go.
When I was about 12 years old, I built that thing because I figured it out. I saw some things in the sky flying around in Norway,
Mm-hmm.
and I went, what? How could it stay up there? It has no wings on it. And I started thinking about this, and I read a lot. I started reading when I was 3 years old. Well, cartoons.
Right.
And from there on, I started thinking about it, and that it's got to be electronic. And if there is an anti-gravity system, it floats on the Earth magnetic field, which means that when it's moving through that Earth magnetic field, it creates ripples in the field that probably would affect a compass needle. That was my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I built this contraption built around a battery and a bell, an alarm or a bell. And then I had a turn off and on switch and a compass.
Mm-hmm.
And I wired it up so that if the compass needle was affected by ripples in the Earth magnetic field, it would turn a little bit. It would touch a wire, set off the electric circuit, and the bell went off, and I could grab my binoculars and run outside and see what I saw.
Huh.
And it worked. I had it working. And there were two other times, I remember three. There was one time I ran outside, it was clouds, I couldn't see anything, but twice did I actually see something in the sky from this thing, and I was probably about 12, 13, maybe 14 at the time. So I didn't talk a lot about this because it was, not things you quite talked about.
Right.
Even a lot of people knew about flying discs over there, and what they thought they knew was that it was German, because right after the Second World War, there were articles in Norwegian newspapers talking about the flying discs that the Germans had made during the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
And there were drawings of them. So, of course, I've seen that, so I figured, hey, wait a minute, Germans still around? Well, I didn't know that they really are, but
Right.
they could be other things too that is flying that is not German. And this is what
So this was in Norway, right?
Yeah, it was in Norway.
Okay. So I mean, everybody's got to know that UFOs are spotted all over the planet. I mean, it's just not in the U.S. I mean, some of the biggest cases are, in other countries, too, like Russia, Brazil. There's been some very big cases, but yeah, I mean, everybody here tends to stick within the United States of America and don't usually go out of that. So it's interesting to hear you speak of, seeing these things as a child in Norway. Which what did they look like? Was it the typical flying disc?
No, they were quite far away. And one time, one time there was like a cigar type of craft, and it was probably around, since you don't know the size of it, it is hard to gauge distance.
Right.
But I would think that it probably was like maybe somewhere around 5 miles away.
Okay.
And it was quite large. But it was a dark. I assume it was like more black-like or dark gray, but it was like a cigar.
You sent me a picture too. You want me to show that now? That
that would be excellent. Yeah,
cigar-shaped picture. Okay, yeah. And we'll be talking about the moon in a few minutes here too, people. But yeah, but something along that lines, like that shape, right?
Yeah, and then another time I saw something that was more like a disc-shaped thing, but it was very bright. You couldn't see the craft because it was totally inside of an envelope, an oval-shaped envelope of light.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And I wonder what caused that, like interdimensional or just...
No, that's the plasma field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And how old were you when you saw these?
Probably around... I've had that contraption for a little while, so I probably was about 13, 14, maybe something like that.
Okay, and this would, every time you use this, you would definitely spot something?
No, I had it on all the time, 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Whenever the battery ran out, I put a new battery in there. So it was there. So I remember it going off. And in fact, when I was gone sometime, my mom said that, hey, that thing up there went off. It was ringing, and she didn't know what to do. So I know it worked.
Yeah.
And this is, so if you go to my website, go into the picture gallery, which has 4,000 unbelievable pictures in it.
Yeah.
You can find this contraption, this UFO detector, and it's an explanation on how to build it here. And it's so simple that anybody could build it.
Wow. Yeah. It'd be nice to build upon that, like build something bigger, like a bigger size contraption like that. But hey, if it works being that small, then
Well, it was, let's see, I got to convert centimeters to inches here. So it's probably around 6 inches to 8 inches long, that board that
yeah.
it's sitting on. So
Uh-huh.
it's not that small actually.
No, okay. Yeah, that sounds good size for sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, see, I mean, again, very interesting that you. And how about during your flight time? Any sightings that
Oh
like?
yes,
Mhm.
there were.
Okay.
I've seen quite a few of them, and I uh, I had one strange-looking craft fly right underneath my airplane, about 400 foot underneath my airplane one time. That was when I was on a training flight with a student. And another time that was probably more, I was sitting up at 24,000 feet coming back to Omaha on a medical flight. It was on a, I don't know, I think we have been to the burn center in Houston or somewhere,
Hmm.
coming back in and out of the clouds. And we just popped out of the clouds, and I saw this short cigar-shaped craft coming out of the left corner of my eye and went straight ahead of us, same altitude and very fast going to the right. And it took about probably 3 seconds for it to come from where I could see it on the left until it disappeared on the right, probably about 5 miles ahead of us. And this thing went so fast, it had to go about 4,000 miles an hour,
Wow.
because that
Okay.
far away, I think it had to at least do 4,000. And I was sitting in the left seat in the captain's chair in the King Air there, and I looked over at the co-pilot, and he looked at me, and I asked him, "Did you see that?" He just looked at me, stared at me, turned back around, looked straight ahead, said nothing. And I tried to bring it up one more time, and I got on the ground, and he didn't want to talk about it.
Wow. I mean, why would you not want to talk about it? I mean, that's the
Well,
crazy thing. But I mean,
I, I I realized later that he was a born again Christian, and
mm,
those things, they are demons to them.
again, we don't
Yeah.
talk religion, but see, I still don't even understand that concept. I don't matter,
No,
no matter how religious I am, if I see an object in the sky that's of substance, you know what I mean? It's real, it's there. I'm going to be going, wow, yes, I seen that. What could that possibly be? I
yeah,
mean,
well,
but so many people, even Art Bell, rest in peace, has said many times over the years that people would go nuts, chaos would ensue. If people found out that there
yeah,
was alien species and stuff, and something inside of me says, okay, people may freak out a little bit, but I don't think chaos on the planet would
no,
ensue. I
it
think
would not anymore.
not anymore. No, I
No.
think eventually things would settle down, and
Yeah,
we could coexist. And heck, pick us up, bring us out there, show us what we're missing. You know what I mean? Uh, Before it's too late. We've got plenty of time, but hey, I don't have plenty of time. Let's get me on a ship, get me to a different planet, a different world. It's just crazy. But again, you said it was cigar shaped though. I mean, was
yeah.
was this a long time ago?
That was probably in about 1996, something like that.
Okay, so not that long ago. I mean, really, in the
Yeah.
scheme of things, because when I think of cigar-shaped UFOs, I think of what they seen back in the. And I could be wrong. I mean, back in the like early days of ufology,
Yeah.
um, and slowly they turned into the disc-shaped saucer and other different shapes that they've taken over the years. But you've seen it relatively recently. I'm curious why. Well, what do you think the differences in the shapes and why the one is cigar shaped and one's different? I mean, just
Well,
different alien species, or
I know for a fact because I've seen it in German World War II papers. Of course, you know, I speak several languages. I could read that stuff in German.
Right.
So what it actually amounts to is that the German war machine under the Black Sun, they made a cigar-shaped ship, and there is no evidence that I could find that they actually made one except for the papers that said they did. And that was, they call it the Andromeda machine. And it was quite large. It had room for 4 small flying discs inside of it, as more like scout crafts, which was manned scout craft. There was the Haunebu 1 and some of the Vrills. So this thing, they had the drawings of it, and I've seen them, and they could fly this thing. So this is one of the things that they later on flew onto the moon, and when they had the Haunebu 2, they also flew that one to the moon in right about probably 42, something like that, when they started doing that.
And you say them, who's them?
The Germans.
Okay.
The Nazi German under the Black Sun, that was the biggest one that was working with the round disc crafts. And they didn't, well, now we're getting on to the Germans, but they were brilliant engineers over there. They had no restrictions on what they could create. Not like here.
And do you think that's why? I mean, is it just, I mean, they didn't get any help from elsewhere? This was just, they were just great engineers of the time?
They were great engineers, and they were very good at back-engineered flying saucers.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because Germany had their own Roswell incident.
Right.
Yeah. So they had something too that they could back engineer, and also Maria Otisches, she was channeling this technology from the Aldebaran system, where there were an intelligence over there that tapped into her mind, and they gave her the information that she was supposed to write down. And she did. She took it to some of the engineers, and they laughed at her. Once they read it, they ran after her and said, come on back here, we got to talk about this, because they realized the science that she had written down was good. And she was a nobody when it came to science. She had no clue on what it meant.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I could see that time in the 1940s, Germany really just, hey, go with it. You know what I mean? Let's back engineer this, and let's get this working, and let's take over the world, whatever, you know. I mean, that's a whole different story, getting into the Germans and the war and stuff like that. But over here, I mean, do you think that they did the same way? They just kept it more secret?
Oh, that was very secret over in Germany. They built the underground. The flying discs were built underground, in large manufacturing facilities underground.
Right.
In what is the southern Poland, and also over in eastern Germany, they had some underground bases where they were building them. And I have found that there were 163 known flying discs that the Germans built.
Really?
Some of those discs, they were just plain and aerodynamical airplanes. They had jet engines in some of the early ones, and they were flying them, but they had a round wing on it. And they figured it out after a while that the round wing isn't as effective as the other wings, so they dropped that. But once they started developing the Thule engine that create the plasma field with the anti-gravity effect inside of that bubble around there, then they went back to they found that the round airplane with the Thule engine in it was very effective. I have test results on the Haunebu 2 on the test flight when they flew it from the ground to 60,000 feet of altitude in 3 minutes.
Really? And how did you come about the test results? Can't say.
It's out there.
Okay.
I've had that for 25 years. It came out of Germany. There was somebody over in Europe that sent it to me back when I was doing a radio show. And come to think of it, I think maybe it came from Poland. I'm not sure now where I got it from, but it was in German originally, and it was, I later on found the translation to it were pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they actually did this.
Wow. Is this on your website or anything, or no?
I speak about it
Okay.
on one of the
Okay.
blogs, but I don't have the because I have it in storage in a not storage, but in a file cabinet somewhere, and I'm not so sure where it is.
Okay. So you're not part of, you're not becoming like the Smithsonian. You're locking all this evidence up, right? You just, no, I'm joking.
No,
I'm
no.
joking, Augie. Because we know how that goes, right? Anything of,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that may convince us has got to be stored away somewhere deep underground. But, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, very interesting. And have you, during all of your flights, have you seen any of the round disc UFOs?
The one that flew underneath my airplane about 400 feet when I was on a training flight, it wasn't round. It was more like actually kind of like a skateboard, maybe a short skateboard,
Hmm.
but it had windows on the side of it.
Okay. Okay.
And it was rather small. It was probably around, here we go again, I gotta figure, it's probably about maybe 20 feet at the most of length.
Okay.
So
Huh.
you could see whoever was inside of it was rather small
Wow. Okay.
because there
Yeah.
was windows on the side. So there was obviously that there was something inside that needed both light and needed to see out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we've talked about the UFOs here. Let's get a little
Yeah.
Let's get a little deeper then with this. I mean, what is your opinion on the aliens that are actually visiting us right now? I mean, we've got talks from hundreds of different alien species that visit us. We've got people that talk about them working with our government. You know, we're supposed to, and I know I'm throwing way too many things out there. I'll narrow it down here in a second, but we're basically on Mars. We're on the moon with these aliens, working with them. Why we're blind as bats here, and we have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But let's just start with the alien species in general. Who is coming to our planet, and how many different ones? What's that all about right now?
Well, who's coming here? Pretty much everybody. There is a book that has been was put together by the KGB, and in that book they had. I don't have the book, but I have a video that was created from the book. In fact, somewhere on my Facebook page, deep down in it,
Mm-hmm.
and that in that KGB document, they talk about they think there is at least 160 different races that is coming here visiting from time to time.
Wow.
Some of them not very often, but they have been observed. So there can vary from somebody that is 2 feet tall to the ones that is 12 foot tall and looking like grays, looking like just like us, or even looking like strange looking crocodiles, actually, with intelligence.
Hmm. On 2 feet, like the reptilians that we see pictured.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And when you hear something like that, you look at the speaker you're listening to, and it says, "Yeah, sure."
Well.
Go to Egypt
Mm-hmm.
and see some of the statues that they have. They have humanoid-looking bodies with a crocodile head on it that was carved into stone 7,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they do that? Must have seen something. And it's
Right.
not just, it's just there. There's several places, different places. In Iraq, you find things like that. So there is something there, and we don't really know what it is.
Right. Yeah. No. You go into any museum. They have stuff. all of these kind of artifacts with different, animal faces or different. Yeah, I mean, so it's very interesting that they have that. Even pictures with little UFOs in them themselves. But anyways, the aliens, the reptilians, a lot of people say that they are working with our government.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you believe that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, because there are people being abducted, and they say they have seen inside the craft where they were. They have seen some tall grays and the short grays with a military human standing off to the side. There's several people that have talked about that. And also the people, the whistleblowers coming out of Area 51 and coming off the Mars project, they talk about the dark side of the black project. So the American government, they are working with extraterrestrials for the different projects, trading slaves for technology and things like that.
Oh, really? So that's a big part of it too. Then just we're being used as slaves just for
in space. Well, at least in the inner planets of this solar system, slaves is a big commodity.
Really? Okay. Yeah. That's kind of the first. I mean, I've heard of that, of course, but that being a big part of it. And what species are taking us for the point of slavery?
They are there's many different forms of reptilians, but they are usually the ones.
Okay. And
besides, the black projects of the United States have manufacturing plants on the moon where they are making the some of the triangular ships and also the cigar-shaped ships that are building up there, the big ones. Well, not that big, but they could be close to half a mile long, and they're using slave labor there. The American black projects are using slave labor, anything from children to women to men. They abducted here, brought to the moon, and they're also on the Mars project. They are using slave labor to do the work. And when they no longer need them, when they've had them for a few decades and they've worked them to death, so to speak, so they can't really work much anymore, they are let go and done away with. So everything out there is not roses.
Huh. And any idea why they are working? I mean, out of everywhere they could go. I mean, they could be other places and stuff like that, but why here? Why the moon? Why Mars? Why are they using us to mine there? What are they looking for? What are they using us to actually get?
Well, the moon, this particular moon here, let's touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, let's start with the moon. Yeah, the hollow moon.
Yeah, because I know the moon is hollow, and so does Russian scientists. They prove it to us. And so there's some experiments that has been done that proves it to us that yes, and I have pictures on my website showing a huge hole into the moon, the center of the moon. So it is that way. And the thing about the moon is that it's a well of resources. You do have water up there, especially in the polar region, and also underground in the wells inside there is water. And you have titanium, huge titanium fields. So there's a lot of metal. There is resources up there, and they can mine that, and they can make things that it would be much more difficult to make on Earth. And since we are told that NASA is lying to us about every other time that they talk to us, they lie about it. So we're saying that the moon is a dead rock sitting in the sky up there. Well, why do we have clouds on the moon? I got pictures on my website, NASA prints showing there is small clouds up there. And I have a video of a black tube coming out of the ground with smoke coming out of it, and the smoke is drifting off in one direction. It wouldn't do that if it was no air up there blowing it away. If it was no air, right, when the smoke came out, it will disperse in all directions.
Right, yeah, no, and I've questioned that my whole life, why we visited the moon and we've never gone back. And to be told that, hey, it's just not worth it, and it's it's just a dead rock up in space. It's like I don't go for that. You don't venture to space and then automatically just say we're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can kind of get the whole secrecy thing behind that, but
if you look at something else too, that you probably seen some of those pictures that NASA has brought back, and they have smudged them out, so that there is right in the middle of the picture you can't see what's behind that smudge.
Right.
If there was nothing there, why would they smudge it?
Yeah, no. Or videos where they stop, the video, like a lot of the, what is it, SDS and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And then another thing that is going on up too, that once you start getting these NASA prints coming back that show structures in it. I have several NASA prints that show humanoids walking around on the moon. You can find them in the picture gallery. And this is some of the pictures that is marked above top secret. If it's just a dead rock, why do they mark it top secret?
Right.
They're lying through their teeth, and an imbecile would understand that.
And these are official NASA pictures.
Absolutely. I got them on my website. Now, here's something for you. Even NASA and Russian research, they have found that the moon is hollow. And here's something. I wrote this down because I wanted to read it to you to make sure I got it in the right language, so they can't say that, nope, that's not what he said.
Go for it.
Joseph F. Bloomerich is a leading engineer at NASA Marshall Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. He made an official statement after 18 months of study of the moon, and he said Earth is and has been visited visited on a regular basis by extraterrestrial beings. He studied it for 18 months, both what the Russians gave him and what the US gave him, both classified and unclassified pictures and information. And that was his statement. So disclosure has already happened. It's just that nobody talks about it.
Well, that gets back to one of my main things. People, everybody's looking for disclosure, right? But yet people can come out, and some very high level people can come out and say that this is what like you just said, you know what I mean? But they're totally ignored because we're all working our day-to-day lives and just ignoring that and saying, that's a bunch of hogwash and stuff. So I think people can come out with these studies, over and over and over again, but until one of the aliens actually set their feet down here and start talking to the people, or the government actually comes right out with an alien species standing next to them and say, hey, we've been working with them, this is what's been going on, or slowly try to integrate them within our culture, it's just going to continue to be the same way. I mean, everybody can come out and say whatever. The president of the United States can come out and say we're working with aliens and stuff like that. But if there's no pictures, no proof, or an alien standing right next to him, who's going to believe him, right?
Oh, yeah, they're going to say, oh, no, he had one of his deranged moments.
Exactly. So this is what frustrates me with this whole field when it comes to alien species, and like what you're saying, like it's, the whole working together, the secrecy, now taking them away from, and we all know that there's how many people go missing every day on this planet. I mean, it's mind-boggling. So
Is well over 500,000 globally that mostly children that disappear.
unbelievable. And so, I mean, the facts are there, but people need concrete evidence right in their face. Otherwise, they're just not going to believe, right?
Because government, the best thing that they know how to do is to stonewall, and it works.
But why not work together to get ourselves out there, to build a bigger civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before? The dream.
Yeah, but there's no money in that. You got to remember that one day before 9/11, the Secretary of Defense came on TV and he said there's $3.3 trillion missing from the military budgets and we don't know where it went. And then a little while later, one of the accountants that worked at the Pentagon, I think he comes through a civilian liaison office.
Mm-hmm.
He said, no, he was wrong about the 2.3. It's more like $9 trillion that is missing. That is what they built, the secret space program. The bases on the moon and the bases on Mars, based on Ganymede and other places that is out there.
Okay, so the moon, how hollow is it? Is it just what they're mining? Is there a civilization within the moon?
There is millions of people living inside. And let's look at the moon and what it really is. I think I can explain it to you by actually bringing up some of the science behind it.
Okay.
We know the size of Earth. We know the size of the moon. We know the gravitational attraction that Earth creates. There's a number to that. Mm-hmm. We know the gravitational attraction the moon should put out. We know the speed at which the moon is moving around Earth. We know the centrifugal force created by that curved path around Earth. We know the weight of Earth. We know the weight of the moon according to its size. If we feed all that into a computer, mm-hmm. it doesn't come out. The moon shouldn't be there. It is too big, too heavy to hold the orbit that it is holding. Now, there's people that has done this, and they say the moon can't be there. It should be twice the distance out.
Right.
So, with other words, if it was hollow, then it would be much lighter. Then it could hold the orbit that it has. Mm-hmm. So there is only one explanation for the moon being there, and that is that it is hollow. Besides, the moon has a perfect circular orbit. No other moon in this solar system have that, because when a moon comes into and get captured in the gravitational field of a planet, it usually ends up with a very elliptical orbit. And right. That elliptical orbit gets, a little wobbly here and there. Mm-hmm. It is never perfectly round. And that's why the Russians said, there was some Russian scientists that wrote in the Russian Academy of Sciences newsletter saying that the chances of the moon have been captured around Earth is about 1 to 1,000,000, because it's almost impossible that it could be captured and being this circular. So that tells me it was probably a spaceship that was flown in and parked in orbit.
Wow. Okay. So you believe it's some kind of spaceship?
It is movable, and there is other evidence to that effect. I have run across papers coming out of India some 11 to 12,000 years ago when it was written, mm-hmm. and that said that we had 2 moons. One was white and one was blue. Okay, where's the blue one?
Yeah.
It
Where is
left.
it? Yeah.
And the thing about a moon is
Hmm.
that whenever it's in orbit around a planet, if it's a natural moon, it never leaves orbit. It just can't. Now, the only thing that can happen to it is that it will slowly slow down and get closer and closer to the planet. So in millions or hundreds of millions of years, it will crash into the planet.
Right. Hmm.
It never leaves unless it is flown out of there.
So the moon you're saying is a giant ship.
It is a movable space station, if you want to call it. Yeah.
Okay.
And there are millions of people living in. There are people on the surface having bases there. The dark side of the United States. Well, I shouldn't say government because the
Hmm.
government has nothing to do with it. It's a breakaway civilization that is built bases on the other side, on the other side of the moon.
Right.
That's most.
Can I bring up something then that is kind of interesting and I'm kind of curious about then? If it is a spaceship, something that moved in to our orbit and is not, what are they going there to mine for if it's a spaceship? Like the
I don't.
titanium, the water on the poles. How did that get there? Why is that covering the ship itself? You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's see. What we're finding is that, excuse me, the moon is a 500 million years older than Earth is. And we know that from the samples of the rocks coming from the moon
Hmm.
and the samples of rocks on Earth. So if it's a 500 million years older, it could not even have been formed in the same cloud of dust as Earth was, which means it had to come from outside of the solar system and most likely outside of the galaxy.
Okay.
How could that happen that far away? So it had to be some foreign object. And traveling through space, there is space dust, and that get caught on the moon. And 4.57 billion years of traveling through space, you get a lot of dust accumulated on the surface, and that comes from material floating in space,
Hmm.
which we know titanium is one of those dust particles in space.
Right. Okay. Well,
So,
I'll go with that. That sounds about right. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, especially if it's sitting there in our orbit for that long too.
And we also have a NASA print on my website that show a rather large mothership. It looks like it's crashed and laying on the surface, and it's got pot marks on it from meteorites hitting it over, the millions of years. So it's probably several million years old. It's been sitting there. And
Okay.
also, the science editor of the New York Herald Tribune, and it was in 1954, his name was John O'Neill. He investigated the moon and he said there is this bridge up there. It's 12 miles long and so symmetrical,
Hmm.
it looks artificial. This bridge went across the whole crater that it was built over. And you can read about this actually in this book called Our Spaceship Moon, that it was published by Friedrich Müller in 1954.
Hmm. Okay.
And we also have air up there. And I have on my website, you'll find the picture, a NASA print of green vegetation in the bottom of some of the craters.
So, but they can't. I mean, humans, we can't breathe on the moon, right? I mean, there's
Oh,
or we can.
yeah, we do. We
Really?
can.
Okay.
First of all, I see pictures. I have them on the website, the pictures of humanoids or people
That's what
walking around there.
yeah. Okay.
And the atmosphere on the moon is about 18,000 feet compared to what is on Earth.
Okay.
18 to 20 maybe, somewhere in there. And then we would say 18,000 feet is not much air up there. That's true. And I have, one time I was on a flight and I was climbing up. And when you get above a certain altitude, you're supposed to have oxygen, or a pressurized cabin. So what I did, I had the co-pilot put the oxygen mask on, and I turned off the pressurization of the cabin, and we flew it to about 24,000 feet. And I know anything below 18,000 feet is perfectly well breathable air. Now, it's not as much, so we have to breathe deeper. Look at the people that live in the Himalayas. There's people living at 18,000 feet all year long, and they breathe perfectly.
Right.
So if they have 18,000 feet of compared altitude on the moon, they get used to it, and they can live there.
Right, adapted, yeah. Boy, I tell you, see, there's never enough time. It does. We can do 5-6 hour show, but I've got so many questions that revolve, and it's hard because, one thing leads into another, into another, into another. But I mean, I'm sticking a little bit to this moon thing still. Who is in? Is anything out there that tells us who is running or in charge of the moon, the spaceship? What's alien species? Or have they come together to work as, together with us? How's this work? Who's in charge of the moon?
I don't think there is any one in charge of it.
Who flew it here?
That I don't know. That was done a very long time ago, and probably was someone that is still there.
Okay.
And I would think that it's what Michio Kaku will call a second or first or second, probably more so, a second civilization that can actually move planets around and have that kind of capability.
Right. Okay.
And now here is something for you that wants to see what's going on the moon. Try to get a hold of a telescope. I'm going, in the next 2 minutes, I'm telling you some places where you can look and you'll see stuff that shouldn't be there. Get yourself a hold of a telescope that magnify at least 800 times. Preferably 1,200 or more. If you do, go ahead and find a place on the moon called Cassini A. It's a crater. It's about 1.5 mile wide, and there's a 600-foot wide hole in the west edge of that Cassini A crater. It is smooth as glass. Well, I don't know about glass, but it's smooth inside. And if you keep your telescope on that hole for a while, you very likely will see small points of light that comes out of the hole and goes into the hole. That is an entrance into the interior of the moon.
Wow. Okay.
So another thing you can do is use that telescope and look at the moon as we are looking at it. 12 o'clock compared to the clock, 12 o'clock is straight up, 6 o'clock straight down,
right.
9 o'clock straight to the west. Look at about 11:30, almost to the top. Zoom in on the surface of the moon up there. When I had a telescope that could do this, and I saw two sharp points coming over the horizon. Those are pyramids. And on my website, I have pictures of 3 different NASA prints of 3 different forms of pyramids on the moon. They are clearly there. And I've seen the original of those 2 at almost to the North Pole of the moon. I've seen the original, and I don't know where it is right now, but I have some of the others on the website, so you can see those. But that's something you can find.
Okay. Any reason behind the? Do you know what the pyramids were used for? What they're on the moon. they're on Earth. They're all over the planet.
They're on
Uh,
Mars. They're on Venus. I have a NASA print of one on my website of a three-sided pyramid on Venus.
really? Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
two of them actually there.
Any ideas what it's used for? Is it a
Well, these
communication
were,
device or?
I think it's an energy device, a beacon type of thing. That's the way I understood it in my download. It's used for energy, but I don't understand the energy.
Right.
I saw something about that, but I wasn't able to. I don't remember exactly what it was.
This gets all complicated, don't it, Augie?
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't it like kind of frustrates you sometimes that.
But the pyramid builders, they came through this solar system millions of years ago, and they built the pyramids, and they've been here since. Even the Cheops pyramid, and the Sphinx,
Hmm.
it was there 30,000 years ago. So
And
if you
you,
look at the Sphinx, it shows water erosion of the Sphinx, and it hasn't been water to that level where there could be erosion for at least 15,000 years.
hmm,
So what Avaz is telling us that, oh yeah, the Kofi, they built the pyramids 5,000 years ago. No, they didn't.
oh,
That was
I don't think that they know much about when things were. I mean, I know they can somewhat date things, but when it gets to way out, I think they're just making stuff up. But anyways, that's just me.
yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, and another interesting thing is this whole moon thing. What is? Do you think it's capable of taking off one day?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. Since the blue one left, I don't see any reason why this one shouldn't be able to leave. But evidently, it has a purpose here. Observation post, maybe, or something that they need from Earth. So they need to stay here in order to have that. That I'm not sure of, but
When do you think was the first time that we like got together with them and started this whole, working with them, slavery thing, minding the moon, all that? You think this happened with the moon landings themselves, or?
oh no, it's been around a long time. There's people coming out of India that even back in the Rama Empire, they talked about the shiny ones. They looked like people that they were lit up like a light bulb, I guess, and they talked about our moon has our friends on the moon, and there
Hmm.
were phrases like that. So I know there was a contact between the Rama and something on the moon. And even before that, the Anunnaki speaks about something on the moon. So, and that dates back, 45,000 years.
Oh, okay. So basically, they're working with pretty much the whole planet, or no? You think it's particularly the U.S. government that they're working with, or a little bit of
It,
everybody?
It appears to me like the Russians are involved with it. When I'm saying the Russian, I don't mean the Russian government. The Russians have their same black projects that
Right.
is part of this breakaway situation. And some things out of England and Europe is part of the same thing. Probably not as much as the Americans, because the Americans, they had 12, 15, maybe $20 trillion worth of money that they could build it with. So evidently they're the boss.
Right. Do you think that they have? Oh boy, what was the whole purpose behind going to the moon then?
Are you talking about what happened in 1969?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, then we're talking about what didn't happen in
Okay, that's what
1969.
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask. I was going that way. So okay,
If
so
you,
you don't believe it happened then, right?
oh yeah, we've been on the moon since the mid 1950s, but
Well, that
we have
whole
been,
yeah.
yeah, 1969, we did not go there in that tin can that we were told. Because if we did, um, if you understand what the Van Allen belt is,
Right. Yes.
it is something that once you end up in it, it's kind of like putting a spoon in the microwave. Have you ever tried that?
Right.
You wanna heat something up and you put it in there and you forget the spoon.
Oh yeah. It's gonna get destroyed. It's gonna blow
Yeah,
up
you
the
got
microwave. Yeah.
sparks flying everywhere.
Yep.
That happens when you go through the Van Allen belt, unless you have a plasma field, a shield against, or I mean, a shield around the craft that would stop the radiation from entering the craft. The spaceship in 1969 didn't have nothing like that. But the Haunebu 2, with the Thule engine in it, that had that plasma field around it. So when the Germans flew to the moon, they could perfectly do that safely. And when later on the Americans got a hold of some of those crafts that the Germans had, they could perfectly well use that craft to fly through the Van Allen belt to the moon and be safe there. And they could sit on the crater's edge and film after that they had brought the contraption in 1969 when it was obviously brought there for some reason, so they could say that yep, later on you can see it's there. But Kubrick, he filmed the whole thing in a studio outside of San Diego, I guess, or there's another theory it was done in England, but I think it was in San Diego.
Yeah. So you believe that they actually did fly in the ship? So that technically they did go there and shoot footage.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
not in the contraption that they
they
the Apollo and all. Yeah. So
no, they didn't go there. They couldn't. They just wouldn't. They would have been cooked.
Wow. This is so much trouble to go through just to try to fool us, and I don't get most of it, but
yeah, it boggles the mind. And once you start believing something, then suddenly you see other things that say, no, can't be that way.
Right. Oh my. A little segue here. Any ideas? Because I know when you talked about the types of species that were here, you mentioned some as little as 2 feet tall. What kind of do you even know any kind of aliens that are like about 2 feet tall?
Have you seen a picture of the Acamana in Chile? There was that little,
like chupacabra type thing?
No, 4 foot long. I mean, 4 inches long human body with an alien head on it that was found in the desert. And Acamana, I forget the name of they call it the alien that they found in the desert in the northern Chile.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I have it on the website too. You'll see it there, and it is so clear that is a human form, but it is not a human. And either they live underground or they came here in some type of a small spaceship.
And you said that was like around 4 inches?
Yeah, that was probably maybe about 5.
Wow.
4 to 5 inches.
How did I miss that one? That's interesting. And see, that's like Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the episodes where the humans crash landed and they found out there's a microscopic, society living, in this. It's just I forget the name of the episode, but it was one of the classics. But yeah, just to imagine, I mean, that could actually be going on right now. I mean, when we talk about like fairies and leprechauns and stuff like that could quite well be something that people are actually seen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me back up a little bit too. We were talking about the Germans going to the moon.
Yes.
On my website, you will also find in the picture gallery, you will find a building, NASA print of a building on the moon that is formed as a swastika.
Really?
Very clear. It is just like it was taken from maybe an altitude of about 10,000 feet looking down at the building. Maybe not even that, 7,000, 8,000, 6,000 feet. So it is clear. There is no question that's a swastika. And it is very old because some of it is broken. There are some of the rocks that is fallen down. You can see that it's not intact.
Hmm.
But when the Germans got there, they found this building and they fell in love with it. And they went inside and they started rebuilding it. And that's one part of the German base is right now. It is there.
Wow. And
You go,
still in use, or?
yeah, they're using it now. They kind of revitalized it, the Germans.
And you know, there's another thing too that didn't the Japanese just videotape in, I mean, very high definition the surface of the moon completely?
Yeah, I heard about that. I haven't seen any of it, but I've heard of
Okay,
they
okay.
did something like that. Yeah.
Maybe they're keeping that. Yeah, because I'm not sure if the footage is out there or if the
The
government.
Chinese got some of their stuff stuck on our website, and there's some very, very revealing pictures there from their robot on the moon.
Oh, okay. In your website, it is going to be linked here in the description. Like I said, go to the description, you guys. You'll see all his links.
Mhm.
But you want to quickly give your website out?
Yeah, that's www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And that's the site for one of the sites for the radio show.
Okay. Are all the pictures that you've been speaking of on there too?
Yeah, actually I've had some problems with the picture gallery on that side, so I have linked up the other site which has all the pictures on it. So you will never know the difference. You'll
Okay.
just find you'll find the pictures there.
Yeah, everybody's
And
familiar with with websites nowadays with the links and all that good stuff.
yeah.
So it's all there. You'll find all these pictures, which I'm going to have to go deeper into your site with some of these pictures and stuff that you
And
found.
look at the blogs too while you're in there, because there's some really interesting blogs there too about some of the close-up of aliens and ships and things, and a lot of other things. I cover everything from immortality, like in my book Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. I speak at length about how to reverse the aging process. This is important for some of the older people, or should I say more mature people,
Right.
because in 2009, 3 doctors got the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process, and nobody seems to know about it. I am doing this. I've done it for a year and a half, and it is working for me. I see some of, I have those things that's called crow's feet,
Yeah.
and some of the wrinkles are going away. I'm getting my hair color back. So yes, this is working. It is so simple. There is, I found a guy in China.
Hmm.
He died from an accident at the age of 256.
No way. Wow.
And
Um,
I found out
hmm.
what he ate. I found out how he did it. He was an herbalist. He was a martial art teacher for the Chinese army until about just a few days before he died from an accident.
And what was his name?
Ling Shi Yuan.
Okay.
Ling,
256 years old.
yeah.
This enzyme, is it
Telomerase.
okay, so we're capable of getting a hold of this, or
Actually, the best way to do it, yes, there is. You can actually go and get. You can get this thing, but there is troubling side effects if you go for the pharmaceuticals. I'm doing it the way that the 256-year-old man did it, and
okay.
that is take certain supplements, and I list those in the book. I talk about it, and also I did a long blog on it on my website.
Okay.
You can look for a blog called something about reversing the aging process. And if you want to
Okay.
Google TA65, that is the pharmaceutical version of what's supposed to reverse the aging process. I'm doing it the natural way, and I've never been sick in my life in the first place. So I just
Well, lucky you, right?
Yeah, well, I'm
Wow.
72, so
Wow.
yeah, just
Congratulations
I
there,
want to keep
Augie.
it. Yeah, I don't believe in disease. I don't think it exists. There was another man too that came from China on an exchange program for the university in New York, and he went out with some colleagues one night and had dinner, and he got food poisoning and died. And
Yeah.
he got to the morgue, and they went to go through his papers, and they called the ambassador and say, "Hey, something's wrong there. This guy is 154 years old. That can't be." And the ambassador said, "Yeah, he is." They
Wow.
asked him, "How can that be?" And the ambassador told them, first of all, he says, he did not believe he could die. And for the second, he only ate Chinese herbs and berries for food.
Right. Huh.
So that should give us the thought that first of all, he didn't go to McDonald's, he didn't drink Coca-Cola. He had nothing to do with the Western, well, I should call it food, but maybe I
Well,
shouldn't.
yeah. So the anti-aging and immortality, or whatever you want to, call it,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
is possible, or at least extending your life.
yep.
But we have to avoid everything that's negative in the ways of
Yeah,
food and all this other stuff. Poisons that we ingest into our systems, which is
yeah,
hard as
we
heck.
got to be careful with that because it compounds on us, it accumulates, and it can be fine up to the point where you reach a level where it can kill you, and then it's suddenly, with a short time, it's over.
Right. Because
So,
I've always wondered, that's one of the biggest things that has bothered me throughout my life is, why are we on this planet where every little thing gets us sick? So how are we the perfect being for this planet when we don't live a long life? We really don't. Most of us, and I just never got that.
mhm.
It's
Well, that's by design. A short life, 100 years or below, that is by design because the creators, the Anunnaki, they designed it that way. But science now has figured out, and we know why we are aging, and we know we get so much of this aging that we die. It's because, um, first of all, the pituitary allows to get dried up so it does not create as much of this telomerase enzyme, because this telomerase, when you have enough of it, just like it said in the Nobel Prize papers, if a person had enough of this enzyme telomerase in their body, there would be no reason why anyone should die from old age anymore.
mm-hmm.
Because the telomerase, that will lengthen or stop the telomeres at the end of the chromosomes from shortening.
Right.
The aging happens because of the telomeres get so short. It's kind of like the end of a shoelace, the hard part there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the telomere. So when they get so short that they can no longer hold the chromosomes together, so the chromosomes are fraying at the end and start spreading out, then the cells are no longer able to replicate themselves. When you use what I talk about in the book, and you read about it in there, you'll figure out how to do it very easily. When you let the body create its own telomerase, then the telomeres at the end of the chromosome start lengthening again, and you are actually getting younger physiologically.
And how can you do that? How can you lengthen those?
Well, this by there is a certain diet that I speak of in the book also, and here also on the website I speak about what I'm taking and what works for me. So one of the most important ones is astragalus. And there is a group of doctors that wrote a book about this, and they said that there is really no difference between astragalus in the large doses and this TA65. They both will reverse the aging process because they've shown it when they measure the length before they start this program, I should call it, until they've done it for a while. They see that the telomeres are longer, which means that the person actually is able to replicate more cells and become younger.
But you say don't use the pharmaceutical, right?
You can, but there are some side effects with it that you got to live with, and which is not that bad, but there are some. The natural way I'm doing it, there are no side effects. I'm just fine.
Okay, well, I'll be keeping up, Augie, to see how you
Yeah, and go
reverse
to
your
the
aging. Yeah.
find the blog on the website, and you can read it. And that's you know,
Oh, will do. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I would suggest anybody to go, click all the links and check all this stuff out because he certainly has the knowledge and has put all this together over many years. So, yeah, definitely look into it and check out the links in the descriptions. And
yeah.
yeah. So I was going to touch on that, that's for sure, because I
Mm-hmm.
had that written down and that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's. How about jumping really quick to Mars a little bit? I mean, same thing going on there with it's basically mining and all that good stuff too.
Yeah, there is on my website again in the picture gallery. I have pictures of people on Mars. One of them is leaning up against the rover, evidently working on it. And another is like a woman standing, as clearly a woman,
Hmm.
standing on a rock on the side of a hill. You can't deny that's a woman. It's not a rock. And also there are another person, clear person, standing, leaning with his back up against a rock. And that person looks to be somewhere around maybe a foot tall.
Really? Okay.
And there are small people up there, and most of them are living underground. I
And they
also,
look humans.
they look humans, many of them. There are some really nasty animals up there too, and those, yeah, really nasty animals. So there is the American base up there has a very strong military connotation to it because they want to keep things safe.
Okay. So these are creatures that were there before we
Oh
got
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah. They've been there. They survived the Holocaust, so to speak, because a lot of the structures and buildings you see on Mars, they are tumbled over. So there has been there was a catastrophic incident that
Mm-hmm.
basically destroyed the planet. But you also have, you remember when they started talking about the red planet, everything is red, the sky is red,
Mm-hmm.
brown, I mean brown, and the ground is brown. You remember they said that, and that's
Yep.
how the pictures were, right?
Right.
Now, the pictures are coming back with blue skies from there.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. It's like, yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's.
Which
Uh,
one of those pictures is not a lie?
I, I don't know. Again,
There's
what are you?
air up there.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
It's an
what are you
atmosphere.
supposed to believe?
Yeah.
And how many other places? I mean, the moons of around Saturn. Uranus. I mean, how many moons or planets out there right now are inhabited by beings? Probably
Yeah. Yeah.
plenty. You know.
Yeah, but it's a little too far out to live on the surface. They live on the inside where there is
Right.
warmer.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'm telling you, the one thing that just gets to me is just, how we're working with these aliens, and we just can't seem to get anywhere with them. It's just all about, you know, the slavery, the mining, this and that.
Yeah.
I would wish somewhere in the back of my head there was more meaning to all of this. That
Yeah. Yeah.
there was an end goal to get us out there. I mean, is there any kind of, you know,
And they are,
Are we working with anybody that is trying to help us get to that point, or?
yes, yeah, we are.
Okay.
When I say we, I mean you and me and the people. They are contacting people and trying to get those people to spread information. And the ones that work with government, they are embedded into trading slaves for technology and things like that. So you're not going to get any help from them. But there are others. There are some huge spheres that has entered the solar system, and there are some of them are parked around the sun, some of them are parked around the moon, and these are very large spheres, and they have not been there before. They have come now. There is hundreds and hundreds of them. So this probably is the stage for to make themselves known of their presence, which is not going to take too long. It will happen.
You think it'll happen in our lifetime?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Next few years.
Really? Okay, next few years. I hope you are right, Augie. I really do. Because yeah, I won't get into it, but yeah, I want something to happen. But and what are your thoughts? I heard quite a few people say that, like up in our, not our atmosphere, but in the universe, or in our solar system. Sorry, guys, it's late here. I'm getting back into routine. Okay, I'm getting back into routine. But in our solar system here, there's many species that are parked out there and that are cloaked with some kind of mirrored cloaking system, but they're all out there surrounding the Earth. And I was told many different species have their ships parked out there and are observing us. Do you believe that there's any truth to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are being observed, and we have for a very long time. We have been conditioned for a very long time, but it hasn't worked very well until now, because we are moving into a region of space that has a higher vibration in it. It's a spike of energy coming out from the center of the galaxy, and we are every 26,000 years we are moving through this region of space, and we have the ones of us that understands who we are, that we are not just flesh and blood, we are mind only. We are able to accelerate our vibration into a higher vibration where we can leave the fourth vibration and go into the fifth and possibly higher.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you bring that up. That's actually a good topic. I mean, so you do believe that's going to happen, and do you believe that's going to happen soon? Because I know that means that there's a good portion of us that are going to not make it to that next dimension or vibrational existence.
I think you're right, because the scuzz buckets of the world, so to speak, they're not going to make it, because they love the fights, they love the money, they love the power, they love the control. So they're going to stay where that is. And us that could care less about those, we are looking for the higher cause, for the higher vibrations, for love. We have the chance to leave this fourth vibrational world and go to a higher one. And this is all mine, because here's something that, let me ask you a question. And
sure.
In the book, I explain this very thoroughly, how to actually use your mind that you have never been told how to use. And I teach people how to do that in the book. For the last 300 years, we've been told that matter and energy cannot be created from nothing, right?
Right.
Then again, we have some of the most brilliant people on the planet, like Stephen Hawking, rest his soul, he just left us, from University of, Oxford University in England, theoretical physicists, and most other theoretical physicists, they are telling us now that their equations on the blackboard show us that this whole universe we are living in was created from nothing. So if this whole universe was created from nothing, and you are in this universe created from nothing, what are you?
You just asked one of the biggest questions that has always been on my mind. You know what I mean? If no matter which direction you go, if it was the Big Bang, where did that come from? If it was God or your image of God, who created him?
Yeah.
So there's got to be a start. But when you look back at the start, the very beginning, then what was before that? So it's
Yeah.
mind-boggling to even comprehend. You know what
The
I'm
f-
saying?
the further back you think, the more questions you have. For the Big Bang, who lit the fuse?
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is that if we are, according to quantum physics,
Hmm.
physically, we are nothing. But we got a problem. I see stuff around me. And listen here.
Right.
I
Yep.
bang my fist on the desk.
Hmm.
It is solid. It's got to be something, right?
Yep.
So the only thing it can be is mind-directed thought, intention-directed thought, actually.
Hmm.
So if everything we see around us is thought, that tells me that if I can control my thoughts, if I understand who I am, what I am, and my capabilities of creation by thought, I can create in my life things that I like instead of the garbage that sometimes happens. By thought, I can create that.
Wow. Have you been able to do that?
I have done some of that. And the thing is that once we start understanding what we are and our capabilities, there is no limitations to what we can create. Because everything we think of is placed into this soup of creation, which we can call the Akashic records of the universal storehouse of creative energies, which I like to call it. It's sitting there. Once we think of it, we give it a low form of life. And we place it into that soup of creation. It's sitting there as potentials for creation.
Hmm.
And as long as we don't think about it, it does not exist. But when we think about it again, then it is recreated. And we can, let's say that we need something,
Okay.
whatever it is. We
Right.
think of that thing. Once we think of it and put it in colorful images, with emotion, with intention, with love, that's the universal language. We place that into the soup. And now we think we want that, we need that. And that thing you placed in there is going to start looking around for a match. Where can it find something that can help it to be created? And it comes back out of the soup and start the physical process of creating itself into physical reality to come into your life. There's a process for that through the laws of physics as we know them here.
Okay.
And once we know how we can create things, we can also create things in the future. Place something we want right now, but we know we can't have it right now, so we'll put it into, let's say, the Christmas party. Don't use the calendar. The calendar is worthless what the universe is concerned. Time and space does not exist.
Right.
Calendars don't exist. But a Christmas party, that exists because it has no calendar attached to it except for an event, a time-coded event. Now, you see yourself standing around with friends toasting this thing that you have already attained from what you wanted to have happen. And then every day go back and forth to that thing, back up there, visualize yourself in that situation again, come back. Every time you go back and forth to it, you lay down attractor strings to it. And it creates a timeline between you and that thing. And you get drawn up that timeline as long as you, in the meantime, do everything you can to help it happen. So when the time comes, Christmas Eve party or New Year's party, you walk right into it and it is there. You have already helped creating it.
Wow. That's so interesting.
I explain how to do this in the book because this is mind This is why I call it spiritual science. See, we've never been taught how to use our mind. I got an example for you. This is a good one. I'm going to take 24 seconds to tell you.
Sure.
If you took Mr. Average right off the street,
Mm-hmm.
put him in the left seat of a Boeing 747, that's the captain's chair, and you sat down as a co-pilot chair and look at him and say, hey, let's go flying. That accountant you found on the street, put in that chair, he's going to look around for 20 minutes before he even found the electrical master switch. He have no clue.
Right.
But if you gave him a year's worth of training in that airplane, and it would take a year to fly a Boeing 747 for him,
Mm-hmm.
and then got him back in the chair and said, let's go flying. After 1 year of training, he could take you flying. Same thing with the mind. We've never been taught how to use it. I'm teaching people in this book how to use it and do some amazing things with it. There is a chapter in the book that teaches you how to do time travel.
Well, I was going to just talk about that because, yeah, I mean, what you're talking about and, creating your own, event, we're getting into timelessness and time travel and whether there is time, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And the thing is that once you start using the mind, it was intended to work for you. You can do some amazing things. I used to teach a mind development course where I was traveling around the country for about a year teaching this, and we taught people photographic memory and how to read a book at a rate of about 75,000 words per minute with 95% retention. It's very possible. But you are not learning it with rote learning. You got to retrain your mind. It's a simple process, but you got to retrain your mind to do it differently. You got to turn the pages, 2 pages a second. Bypass the conscious mind and put it directly into long-term memory. And then when you need the information, you go into long-term memory and retrieve it by using triggers, and you bring it back out. You were never taught how to do that.
No, I wasn't. I mean,
Yeah.
most people aren't. But yeah.
There's a mind development course actually speaking of this, and they're still teaching it, even though 20 years ago when I was doing it. It's zoxpro.com. You can go read about it. It's phenomenal.
Oh boy, yeah, I gotta write that down. I would love to be able to do this for sure. Yeah, I mean, so just the thought of being able to manipulate time, because that's basically what you're doing, right? Creating these threads back and forth over and over till you make it actually happen. Is that actually changing the future, or is there no time relevance to that whatsoever to begin with?
Oh, now we're getting into an interesting area.
Right.
Oh, yeah, time travel. Well,
which I
in
love.
the book, I have some examples in the book how I do it.
Okay.
If you go to my website, I think it's in the picture gallery, page 8, I think it is. I have photographic evidence of time travel. I think me and one more guy that I know of that have it. He's over in Sweden. But you can look at those, and that is definitely there's 2 different pictures taken at the same time, but they are of the same area that is taken a picture of. But one is totally different than the other one, but it's taken about a minute apart.
Really?
So you can look at it, and there's an explanation on how it happened. This is on the website.
Okay.
But time travel, see, we see things that is found, like the tomb in China that found a Swiss watch in it, and it had been sealed for 800 years.
Right. Yes.
I don't know if you heard about that one.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Yeah, and there's quite a few other ones too. But yeah.
Yes, there is. And the thing about it is that if we understand what time is, it is very possible, because time is a mind-created construct. So if we can create anything we want with our mind, we can think about the past, and we can envision the future. But where are we doing that? We're doing it right now.
Right.
So we can bring the past up to experience it right now. And we can bring the future back to experience something we have envisioned in the future.
But we can't physically take ourselves to that moment, right? It's just a
Well,
memory.
there is that word again, can't.
Well, that's why I'm saying it, because
Yeah. Okay,
if there's a way to do it,
I
you know.
haven't talked about this a lot, but in 2003,
Hmm.
BBC Television came over to the United States and did a TV documentary on time travel. They interviewed Michio Kaku and Green and another theoretical physicist and myself.
Hmm.
And on that um, TV documentary, I demonstrated a little electronic device that I've had some very strange experiences with.
Okay.
One of them was I was walking down the street. I went up to a newspaper stand,
Hmm.
and I got a newspaper. It's one of those that was open,
Hmm.
and that newspaper was dated 6 months in the future. So I explained this on the video. You can probably find it on the internet. I haven't looked for it for a while, but I'm sure it is out there. It's called Time Trip by BBC Television. This video was shown to 1 billion people around the world, wherever there is English-speaking people.
Hmm. Okay. And what was the device?
It is a small device that has a very strong electromagnet and also an electromagnetic coil that you put around your head. And I'm going to do a show on this actually shortly here.
Good,
But
do it.
this,
Okay.
yeah, this is, and it does work. But when I got it, I kept experimenting with it, could get nothing to work at all. I just must have done it, oh, I don't know, 50 times, tried it, nothing worked until I started manipulating the brainwave pattern. When I lowered my brainwave pattern down to about 7.5, the bottom of the alpha range.
Hmm.
In fact, the magic number is 7.4. But right about 7.5 cycles per second, that's where the magic start happening, where you start interacting to what's outside of the physical.
And how did you do that? How did you bring it down?
Through a meditative self-hypnosis state.
Okay.
I've been practicing hypnosis for a long time.
Okay.
And you can do this with meditation by meditating on on the numbers 7.4. And you keep doing that, and the mind gets used to 7.4, so it lowers the brainwave frequencies down to 7.4.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
it does work. In the book, I explain more about how to do this in a different way that is a little easier. You don't need an electronic device because I don't use the electronic device anymore.
Okay.
But you can see things in the future, you can see things in the past, and
But you don't think there's ever a time where we would be able to physically put ourselves back in a certain time period?
yeah, I absolutely think so, and they
Okay.
are already doing it. It's just a matter that, like the head of the skunk works for Lockheed Martin said probably about 15 years ago when he retired, that we have the technology to take ET home, but that technology is locked up in black projects, and it will take an act of God to make it become the benefit of the people.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And time travel is very possible. They are doing it. We see it. This panel in Egypt, at this one panel where you see helicopters sitting there in the
Hmm.
panel, and you see flying discs, and I mean, it looks like a helicopter.
Right.
So they evidently saw something when they made that carving and
Hmm.
put it in the temple in Abydos.
Yep. You see all kinds of little things like that in artwork throughout the world, which
Yeah.
is, yeah, so interesting. So basically, what I got to do, Augie, is I've got to start getting younger again. You look up what you're doing and reverse my age and get myself younger again, and then start working on getting myself to project changing the future, the past, and then hopefully one day I'll be able to get myself anywhere at any time, right?
You can do all that at the same time.
Mm.
Because the anti-aging process, that is so simple that you can do that falling off a chair. So it's very simple. And once you start practicing a little bit on the we can talk about this later if you like, about the time travel, I don't think I've gone anywhere physically, but my mind has definitely gone out there and I've seen things.
Okay.
So
And you
I
you
think,
think like astral projection, like physically
well,
taking your
no, I think it
okay.
was a warping of time-space in the mind, because it can do that. See, um, these, what should I say, thought,
Mm-hmm.
that is composed of particles. Thoughts are composed of two things. First, an electrical impulse that is in the brain, and also there's a counterpart to it that travels as a longitudinal gravity wave. And these are quantum particles of thought, particles acting as a wave, just like photons in sunlight.
Right.
They're individual particles, but they act as a wave in the stream from the sun. And each one of these particles are donut-shaped, and they function as a mini black hole. And that is the gate, that mini black hole in the middle of a particle of thought. That is the gate to the universe, which the mind goes out. It sees and experiences and pulls things back into the physical. That's the gate. But you can't really, well, maybe you can, but it's difficult to, once you understand it, you can start visualizing it. And we talk, this is in the book too.
Mm-hmm.
So you can learn a lot about these things that I've seen in my download that I had when the universe was downloaded into my mind when I sat in meditation one time. And I sat there and wrote for 3 days afterwards, and a lot of that became part of the book.
Wow. So meditation is a big part of all of this too, just controlling
Oh,
your mind, your thoughts.
meditation, I think, for most people is the gate to higher consciousness. And for those of you out there that is born-again Christians and say you've been told that you shouldn't meditate, look in the Bible. It says exactly that you can, because they calling it different. They say, be still. They don't talk about you sitting still on the chair and, not moving around. They talk about your mind being still. That is what we do when we meditate.
Hmm. And are we all connected to every other living thing in this universe?
Yes, because we are one. Because it is nothing, remember? We are all thought.
Mm-hmm.
All of us and all of everything is one. The best analogy I can use on that is that if you take a tree that spreads itself by expanding the root system, like maybe the birch is a good one,
Mm-hmm.
and you put that in the middle of an open field. 20 years later, you're going to have a whole bunch of small, medium-sized trees around that one.
Mm-hmm.
They all look like individual trees, but they're not. They're all the same. They're above ground expressions of the same organism underground. We are the same. I am a physical expression that looks different from you, but we are the physical expression of the underlying one spiritual wave that we are all part of, that is called God,
Huh.
the universal consciousness.
Okay, I was going to say, you're going to hit me with God right at the end of the show. But,
Well, a lot of people like to call it that, and I'm good with
right.
that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's a word. So in like 2 minutes, what, if you can even answer this, so what are we? What is this all about?
What we are consciousness. We are physical expressions of consciousness. And our thoughts are not our own. Our thoughts are handed to us by what's behind the consciousness. So what we are going through every day, what we're doing and saying and experiencing is very much decided not by our brain and what we do, but it's given to us by the consciousness behind it that wants the experience of certain things that we end up doing.
Okay. And one last question. Do you think, or have you ever been able to, you think we will, the people who have passed on that we care about, that we love, will we see them after we pass, or do we just get dispersed into the energy field that is out there, or the consciousness?
Oh no, we got too many pictures of ghosts for that. See, once we drop the body, we become consciousness. And we also have a body that is the astral vehicle, which is kind of like a cloud-like matter that when it's strong, it can look just like you do today.
Mm-hmm.
If it is not as strong, then you can look like a cloud. But this can be seen. In fact, I'll tell you how you can see UFOs every day, every time you go out, and you can also go to the graveyard and you can see dead folks.
Okay.
Go ahead and get your hands on a fourth generation night vision goggles. They're able to see higher up in the light spectrum than what we with our eyes are able to see.
Huh.
So you can see disembodied entities. So you got to be strong if you head off to the graveyard. Expect to get scared the shit out of you unless that you are strong enough to handle it. But you can go outside at night, point them into the sky, and you will see ships flying around. I almost guarantee it every time.
Excellent. Wow. You know, I can't believe it's already just 2 hours. And
yeah, gosh.
Yeah, how fast it goes by, right?
yeah, it does. So if you want to have a look at that book, the best way to go to Amazon, and that's the quickest way to do it.
Yeah, and like I said, the links will be there. Your website, links to the books, they'll all be in the description. Everybody look there, go look it over. And hopefully I'll talk to you down the road here again about some more stuff. But you don't know how much I appreciate you coming on here, Augie, and talking with me about all this stuff. We kind of jumped all over the place, which is fine. You know, hey, that's how a good conversation goes. I mean, we're not going to learn everything in one talk, but it's always nice to hear people's perspective and all your knowledge that you've learned over the years. So you know what, I tell you, I'm going to give you a compliment because I feel really good about it. I had a blast. It was fun, and it was not really an interview. It was just a comfortable conversation with two people about weird stuff. There you go. You know what, Augie, that's exactly what my show has always been really about, is two people just sitting here talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never, and everybody's got their own shows and the interviewing style and all that, but I guess it's just me. That's just how I am. I like to sit there. I like to get to know the person and just have a conversation and let it go wherever it goes. You know what I mean? So thank you very much for the compliment. That's for sure. I appreciate that. And
it was so fun. We should do it again sometime.
Oh, we will for sure. I'm gonna go check out all your stuff and definitely be listening to your shows from now on too. So
okay.
So I will let you go, Augie, and I appreciate it again. And you have a good night, okay?
And you too. Thank you very much for having me on.
Okay, you take care, Augie.
Yeah, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And There you go, you guys. Aage Nost, and you will have all the descriptions in there, the box and the descriptions below and everything like that. And I like to thank everybody for the relaunch here, for me coming back. Paranormal Into the Night. Look forward to more shows in the future. Next week I have, oh God, my calendar's filling up, but look forward to next week. Very, very good show. And July 14th, they got Whitley Strieber and lots of good stuff coming up. So I want to thank you guys very much. Facebook, YouTube, iTunes. Check me out. Search me up on Google. Whatever you want. Paranormal Into the Night. Peace. Love you guys. Stay spooky.
This has been Paranormal Into the Night, streaming live weekends 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, via Facebook Live, YouTube, and iTunes, traveling coast to coast as far as the web takes you.